Welcome to the How Did We Get Here podcast, the show that allows inspiring women from all walks of life a place to tell their story. Follow along every fortnight as we chat about each woman's challenges, life lessons, and words of wisdom that they have picked up along the way. Everything that has led them to being right here and right now. I'm your host, Jess, and from wherever you are in the world, I hope the story you hear today makes you smile, laugh, and maybe even cry a little. I hope it inspires you and fills your cup up just a little bit more, because in this day and age, inspiration and stories are always worth sharing. So grab a coffee or a tea and settle in for today's episode. Welcome to the third episode of the How Did We Get Here podcast. I'm your host, Jess, and today I would like to welcome my biggest inspiration in the fitness industry, the absolutely incredible Hattie. Thank you so much for saying yes to being on my podcast. I can't thank you enough, honestly.
I was never going to say no. So honestly, I think I said to you, I feel so honored when someone asks for me to be on their podcast. The fact that someone wants to listen to me for an hour, we all know how expensive time is. If you don't have money, the next expense is time. And I think, I can only feel super grateful. And I hope everything that we talk about today is somewhat insightful or even reflective for someone else to be even take it into their own life and go, how could I do things a little bit better? Or even relatability, to some of the things that we share today.
Absolutely. And I think for me, something that I really wanted to focus on a lot this year was doing things that I've been too scared to do. Mm-hmm. And you, someone that I very much look up to in terms of doing the scary things, is something that is so rewarding in the end, because getting through that initial fear and following through with the things that you say you're going to do is, for me, my biggest goal this year. So doing this podcast and starting this sort of really exciting project for me was something I've always wanted to do. So thank you for giving me that inspiration.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
What was the thing that was stopping you from starting earlier?
This is supposed to be about you, but okay. It was the fear of who would want to listen to me. It was sort of trying to start a podcast.
Who are you not? The other way is who are you not to start one?
Yeah, exactly. And I think for me, reclaiming my own power and reclaiming my own identity within myself and understanding that I do have a voice. I do have a voice that people do want to listen to, and not being scared to embrace that. I think coming to that realization that, fuck yeah, who cares? I do have a voice. I think getting through that roadblock and coming to that realization was why I wanted to do this. So, yeah.
What's the purpose of your podcast?
To give a platform for women who have lived inspiring lives in whatever way, shape or form that looks like, a place to tell their origin story, a place to share experiences, life lessons, and things that they have honestly picked up throughout their lives that have brought them to where they are right now, because everybody's story is so different. And I think shared experiences and shared knowledge of how life pans out is the way that we sort of get through life in a way. And I think there's so much value in that. And yeah, like you said, if someone takes away some sort of insight or some inspiration from what we speak about today, then that's my job done. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to put it back to you. There's a question that I really love asking people, and this question is what I always want to start my podcast with. And for you, Hattie, how would you describe you without telling people what you do as a profession?
A hurricane. Honestly, I think to myself, oh my God, I'm such a hurricane. That question, who am I? I guess deep to the core, I'm a very caring person with a lot of empathy. And through my own lessons in life, I've just come to realize that life is such a gift. And we have this amazing body and we have this brilliant mind and we can train it to do anything. And I think what a gift that is to have. And then we have this wonderful thing called a voice. And our voice and our language, it helps others, right? Humans are some of the most, we can be so caring and we can be so destructive, and it's our choice what we choose to be. And I think, I guess I'm just, how do I describe who I am? I mean, I think I'm just a very caring, very high energy, I don't know, empathetic person, really. I just really want to make sure that I lead this life knowing that I did something for myself and I did something for others. And it's something, on the flip side, I always think about death. And I'm not scared of dying, but I'm certainly scared of leaving this earth without leaving some sort of gift to it at all and being able to serve others. I think serving others to just serve others is one of the greatest things that we can do. As well as the other piece is when we share our stories, it helps others feel like they're not alone.
Absolutely.
And when we can relate to someone, it's soothing for someone's soul, knowing that they're not the only ones suffering in their own experience. While they're having their own experience, there's so much that we can relate to. Like that's what the world is like. And we can only do that when we share with our voice. So I went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I tried not to say what I do instead of say like how I am.
Yeah, it's true. And that's why I asked you to be on this podcast, because like you are someone who has lived such an incredible life already and have taken so much inspiration from you from day dot. Like, I don't know if you remember years ago, I'm talking almost 8-9 years ago, way back in the city, we had a PT session together.
Oh my goodness.
Do you remember?
I do remember this. I was trying to think the other day how long I've known you for.
Yeah, it was honestly probably about 8 or 9 years now. And from that day, I remember I was just like, I want to be in this space. I want to be someone who is just as, energetic and brings so much joy through fitness as what Hattie does. Like, that was one of the best days ever for me, because it was so like, yes, like this is the space that I want to be in. This is the type of person that I want to be. And for me, that was you. And I don't think you were aware of how much of an impact that had on me, like in terms of like the trajectory of what I wanted the rest of my life to look like. So this has sort of really come full circle for me in a way that I never thought it would. Even getting a message from you before I competed in April, I remember I was sitting in the hotel with James and Nate and my partner at the time, and you had messaged me because James had put up a photo, my glute comparison, and you said your improvement over the last 2 years is just incredible.
Yeah, I'm getting emotional.
I remember because I'm going to cry now, because I cried to James and I cried to Nate, and James was like, yeah, we did good. And it was being recognized by someone who I've looked up to for a very long time was so profound. And I think I messaged you and I had said that you don't know how much that message meant to me. And I remember sitting in the hotel room with James and I was just crying, because I was like, no matter what happens on show day, no matter what I place, no matter what happens, for me, that recognition of my hard work and my dedication and my devotion to my sport and to what I love to do is enough for me. And so just getting that full circle moment again was just like, I can't ever put it into words, because it's like now I'm getting really just, overwhelmed. But thank you.
I mean, one of the beautiful things about watching someone over a long period of time is that you get to see their transformation, and transformation is not an 8-week progress photo. Like, no. Transformation is 10 years. And I think that's the thing that we underestimate. And little by little, a little becomes a lot. Year by year, years accumulate. And, I've seen, your own transformation. And I'm always someone that loves to, I love to compliment others. Like I love to, say to someone, oh my God, congratulations. Or congratulations on your success. I know how hard, I know how hard you have to work to make progress. And then to do it over and over and over again, and to do, show after show. And this is the thing about the sport that we are in. It is so subjective. And I actually had a conversation with Taylor, who's one of James's clients, the other day. And I said,
Yep.
The reason I never ask for feedback is because it's kind of irrelevant. You get feedback for that show on that day. But what about the next show when you're in a completely different lineup? And these things that stood out over here, even if you worked for them and you went to a new show, it's going to look different because different physiques bring out different bodies.
Absolutely.
And so it can be really unhelpful, but you have to be able to, take on critiquing so that you can be better, knowing that doesn't, even if you nail it, that doesn't mean you're going to get the spot. And so can you stay in this game knowing that 99% it is for you?
Absolutely.
And there's 1% for the winning, because you need that 1% to keep you going. Right? You need that 1% to stop you from cheating on yourself. And, something that you said before is like devotion. I love that word. Or radical self-leadership is the thing I think about all the time. And to be able to do this over and over and over again and stay level-headed, it does take a lot.
Thank you. And I love that about the sport as well. Like it's, people are always just like, oh, you're going to compete again? You're going to do it again? I was like, yeah, I will, because I love it.
Yeah.
No matter what it brings to you and to your life in terms of the dedication to doing it over and over again is what I gain the most value for me. Okay, well, moving a little bit away from the bodybuilding world and that world in terms of how we met and things like that, I want to sort of bring it back to you in terms of your life, in terms of particular moments within, could have been in your childhood, your adolescence, things that have shaped you, values and your core beliefs as an individual, as a person, to who you are today. Can you pinpoint maybe like one or two?
I mean, gosh, I think if I reflect back on my childhood, there are two things that I'm very grateful for. One was gymnastics, where, I can owe a lot of my athletic kind of characteristics from gymnastics. It taught me skill acquisition, taught me discipline, it taught me focus, it taught me how to be an athlete, it taught me so many things. While often we look at gymnastics as an individual sport, it was actually a team sport. And I was surrounded by, girls that were so motivating and inspiring for me. And they were my teammates, but they were also my competitors. But it was such a healthy ebb and flow of both those things. I was both inspired by my best friend, but I was also, competing to be better than her. But ultimately to be the best of myself. But at that same time, I was, going to school and I was being bullied. Yeah. And it was really interesting to have so many friends, before and after school in this gymnastics club, and then to have no friends at high school, in primary school. And the reason I bring up that particular piece is because I'm grateful that I was bullied, because I would never bully someone. It was like, it just, it was such a hard time. And I just remember thinking, like, what's so wrong with me? But as an adult, I think you would never see me
put someone down like
write something nasty. Like, I just would never do that. And I feel like it really helped shape, who I am as an adult and how I am as an adult, in the same way that childhood with my competitiveness and the gymnastics and all those other wonderful things, with some wonderful friendship, with camaraderie, with support, with sisterhood, I was able to have that as well. So that's, two really big pivotal pieces to my life. And then, of course, if I look at where I am to this very day, I was really sick when I was a teenager. I was hospitalized with anorexia, and I never thought I was going to be in the fitness industry at all. And so that moment was like the trajectory of, taking me towards where I am now. But also I learned so much from that little girl that was suffering so much, because she taught me how powerful our mindset is. And actually not to take this wonderful vessel called a body for granted. In fact, it is a state of the repetitions that you put it through, right? It's the state of the choices that we make continuously, not just what we take one off. It's what we do over and over and over again. We talk about repetition in the bank for learning, right? For building our bodies, for skill acquisition. Well, your body just is a result of the things that you tell it to do and the things that you make it do. And I don't think I really would have been exposed to how actually magnificent this thing is and how grateful I am that it's still with me. Yep. You know, it's like, you know, now I look at my body, I'm like, you still frustrate the fucking hell out of me. God, I'm so grateful for you. You know, I can love you. It's like, you know, when you've got a partner and you're like, oh, but I love you. But God, you know, we have this thing, we have that same relationship with ourselves, right?
Yeah.
That's what we say, the greatest
relationship. You shit me, but like, I adore everything about you.
Yeah. You know, all those things. So I think they, at the end of the day, like they were probably the two biggest pivotal moments in my life. And then maybe as an adult, one of the biggest pivotal moments was actually meeting Sebastian.
Yeah.
And I often share, you know, how much I owe so much of my career, but even just as a, you know, as a person. And he was the one that got me onto social media. I never would have gotten onto social media without, you know, him, you know, encouraging me to do that. And, you know, and then 15, 14 years later, here I am.
Yeah. For working with Sebastian and sort of going into working with him like almost as a mentor, what was probably one of the biggest takeaways from him as a person that you've continued to carry on? Like what's probably the biggest lesson that you learned from him?
Gosh, where do I even start? I mean, he taught me, one of the biggest ones I say often is more is just more, better is better. Something he taught me was like, just because I could do more doesn't mean I'm going to get a better result. And, you know, women are fantastic at doing volume. And I always say we are the hardest workers in the room, but it's often at the detriment to our own progress. And so he taught me like, just because you can do more doesn't mean you should. He taught me the art of like perfect practice makes perfect from warm up to work set. So, and I use that in like so many other ways. What else has he taught me? I think that, oh gosh, there's been so many, and I often reflect and send them to him. But even just seeing, you know, he's been one of my biggest mentors and one of my best friends. And, you know, he's been in the game even longer than I am. And we can look at him, you might look at him on social media and be like, I don't think people actually understand the amount of work he's done to get where he is today.
Yeah.
You know, they might say, oh, you're lucky you trained Thor. It's like he did 15 years, you know, in the gym before he even made that. And now you're just seeing his, you know, the thing about success is we see it now. We don't see everything that happened to get success.
We just see the fruit of the labor.
Success.
Yeah.
And no one ever talks about their failures till they've been successful. Because why would we keep talking about how much you're failing?
Yeah.
We don't do it till we've got the lessons, and then we share the lessons, and then we help others do it better than we can or faster than we can. Maybe not even better, but definitely faster. And I actually just said to my partner the other day, I'm like, I am so grateful that I have had so many amazing mentors in my life. I've been in the industry for 18 years, and I don't think many people know that. And throughout my entire time of being in this industry, from the moment I started working, I had a mentor. My first mentor was Brendan Harris, who is still in the industry, but he's just not big on social media. And he was the first person that kind of saw that I had some potential and really took me under his wing. And then, you know, then it was Sebastian, Tony Battaggi. And then I've had, you know, other mentors outside of this space. And I think, God, I'm so lucky that I had that, because we can learn, you know, from reading, but there's nothing more that you can learn from like being in person with people, hearing that, the repetition of the language, hearing the cues, seeing the cues, fixing the cues, knowing how to solve problems.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, and I often just reflect sometimes and I think, oh my God, thank God for this skill set. And I don't know if I would have had it at the intensity that I have it without those mentors in my life.
I think it's also valuable in terms of learning from someone else that you are inspired by, that you want to be, you know, surrounding yourself with other people who inspire you to do more and be more in terms of, you know, what you're doing in life with training, with anything to do with that. Like it's, you know, I can completely relate with that because, you know, my first coach and my first boss who I was working with, I learnt a lot from him. And there were a lot of things in terms of training that I really understood a lot more. And he took the time to coach me and to teach me properly, you know, because I came from a teaching background. I was a high school teacher for 5 years before. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that helps. What a good
Yeah.
skill set.
Yeah, so I was an English and drama like trained in English and drama, and I was teaching for 5 years. So I sort of had that skill acquisition of being able to relate information to different types of people in ways that they will specifically understand.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was the other side of things in terms of training and, you know, programming and structuring and things like that I really needed to learn how to do. And so my first coach and boss was great in terms of teaching me that. And I would never have been able to sort of learn that properly without his experience. You know, and then now working with James, like James he's like my gym godfather. Like I learned so much from listening to him, and I'll pick his brains about anything and everything. You know, if I have a client that I'm sort of stuck with in terms of, you know, her prep, or where do I sort of go to from here? Like the data's sort of not adding up. How do I sort of problem solve this right now? This is what I have done. And then he'll ask me, okay, have you done this, and this? I'm like, yep, I've done this, and this. Where can I go to from here? So yeah, I think it's amazing when we do have mentors and role models, and in terms of like people that we can turn to when we're sort of like wanting to learn more, wanting to progress our knowledge. And for me, I love learning. I love learning about anything and everything that this life has to offer. And I think going to uni, being a teacher, that started my love of learning. Because I was a nerd at school. I loved school so much. But I think, I don't know where I was going with that. Yeah, like learning from your mentors and progressing that knowledge in terms of, you know, what else you want to open yourself up to in life.
Yeah, I think with mentors, they don't just tell you what to do, but they help you ask the right questions.
Absolutely.
And that, as coaches, is what we need, because we're working with individual people, and so learning, you know, what questions to ask our clients is ultimately going to help us to, you know, them deliver to us some information that we just don't know yet. And I always say the quality of our questions drive the quality of the answers, and we can even apply that to ourselves when we're trying to, you know, become curious about ourselves or learn a little bit more about ourselves. And it's also okay not to get the right question first, because if you don't get the right answer, you know it. You know, like, and you'll keep digging and you'll keep, you know, and I think that's a part of learning. That's a part of skill, like learning a new skill is like learning not just what to ask, but even how to ask it.
And language as well is such a powerful part of that as well.
Yes.
I think, you know, whether or not you have an expansive vocabulary, it's just sort of understanding how the language in terms of how you ask a question is really valuable. Yeah, I love that. Okay, I think I already sort of asked you parts of, well, we sort of touched on this a little bit earlier on in the conversation. Talking about sort of, I really love the way you, when you post on your stories and things like that, in terms of how much you love life, how much I see, how much you love every single day. Like whenever you posted a video of the sunrise or anything like that from the beach, I'm just like, oh, I love seeing that every morning. I'm just like, it just brings me so much joy.
Good. I put up then, I'm like, this is for the people that don't get to watch sunrise.
Yeah. So my little question, I'm going to sort of lead with this part of the conversation, is like, what brings you the most joy in life?
Oh,
It can be as many things as you want to list.
well, I certainly notice that I feel a sense of happiness when I'm working on something that is important to me. And a part of that is often doing hard things, doing things that are really scary, but align with future goals or goals that I've said out loud. And yeah, the reason that brings me joy is because it means that I'm doing what I say I would do. So whenever I'm exercising that thing called self-leadership, it, you know, there's such this, you know, sense of pride and empowerment because a lot of things that we say we want are often really hard because we don't have them.
Yeah.
And, most people probably listening to this podcast want to do scary things, but we've got this thing called self-belief, which can sometimes feel ice thin. Right? And I, I promise you, I have ice thin self-belief sometimes. And so when I am working on something that is both meaningful to me but has so much purpose to things that I care about, that brings me a sense of joy. Another one is, I just love being with my partner and my dog. I just love my Blake. Just playing, quality time with him brings me so much joy. But also when we're working on something together, when we have a project that we're both really contributing to and we're collaborating on, and we have, wonderful, deep conversations, and we're learning about each other, that's when I feel like a lot of joy. Sunrise, just walking, being out in nature, dancing with friends brings me joy. My clients, I feel like they bring me so much gratitude, actually. Just being so grateful. When someone comes to ask you for help, that says, I trust you.
Yes.
And I think in a world where there is so much mistrust and trust has to be almost built, for someone to come and want to work with me and for me to take them down this journey, I can only feel, so grateful. And work brings me joy because I'm serving others.
Yep.
I'm working on something that is greater than myself. And that's what I think that work is, because it's not actually about me. It's about someone else in front of me. So no matter how shitty my day is, when I've got that client in front of me and I'm helping them, it kind of minimizes whatever sadness or whatever I'm feeling.
You're feeling, yep. And when you get that message from a client saying, this has changed my life in a particular way. Like, I know for me, if I get a text message from a client, even something about, like, I was in the change rooms trying on a new pair of pants and the size that I would normally get doesn't fit me anymore. Like, it's too big. And I had to, just even little things like that. And they're just like, I'm so grateful for you. And for me, that sense of fulfillment and just gratitude just fuels my fire every single day.
Yeah. Look, social connection's a big one. When I'm spending time with people that are important to me, it feels a sense of joy. But also, progressing in the gym is a sense of joy. Training hard gives me a sense of joy because, again, this thing called purpose and this other thing called passion, and then we have empowerment. So I think, really there's a lot of things that do bring me joy, and they can be like the most subtle of things because I feel like with life, I always try and win, knowing that there are times where I'm not winning or when I feel like I am in the
I'm
sin
in the
bin.
hole.
One of the reasons I get up every morning when it's dark is so I can watch the sunrise because I know how much it brings me joy, even though there'll be times where I'm just like so tired I want to stay in bed. It's like, hold on, will I actually feel better sleeping more, or will I feel better going and watching the sunrise, which I know, I feel this sense of like calmness. I feel there's something about being up when no one's around, when it's dark, and watching it slowly get lighter, that I feel this, it kind of like helps open the day up for me, knowing that once everyone's awake, the notifications are going off and I am now at everyone's beck and call, which is, the job that I do and the setup. I take pride in what I do, but it's a lot. It is a lot. And the thing about the job that we do is it's not 9 to 5.
Absolutely.
It's fucking 6 a.m. to 8 o'clock at night.
Yep.
And it's also on the weekends. And so while we have a lot of freedom in what we do, we also don't have freedom, which is an interesting thing. But I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And I don't think I've got a skill set to do anything else. So, yeah.
I definitely think you could manage doing literally any other job, but I don't think you'd have the same fire in your soul doing any other job the way you do with what you do.
Yeah. Well,
going off on that as well, because I've been running my business now for 2.5 years. Yeah. Still a little baby business. How did you go about, now this is more like a personal coach to coach question, like how did you go about setting boundaries? Do you, in terms of setting boundaries with clients and balancing that work, like I know we literally just spoke about talking and being accessible to clients from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. have you found over time that you've mentally needed to create those boundaries?
Interesting, lately I've broken my own boundaries, but normally outside of that, I'm pretty good with my boundaries, and my clients are really respectful. And I think when it comes to setting boundaries, I actually think it's healthy, not just for you as a person, but for clients, because it also gives them space and time to figure things out on their own.
Yes.
And so our
Autonomy.
goal as a coach is not for them to rely on us, but to eventually be responsible, but also resourceful.
Yeah.
And
A
have
sense of
autonomy.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Like,
It's
actually,
figure
your
it out.
clients will get way more out of us by being like that, because we can't babysit them 24/7. And actually, when they take a step back, they know the answer half the time. And if they don't, it's also okay. And I think something that's actually really important for me that I've noticed about my system is I go for 2 walks in the morning. The first half of my walk is always with myself, and I will do it in silence or listen to a podcast, but it is my time. And I don't do it with my partner. Not even do I let my mum come in sometimes. I'm really kind of protective of that just first 40 minutes to my day, because that's where I like to express myself to myself. And I know that if I go into one message, I'm going into 100. So I have to set the boundary for myself that this is my time. And once I've done my writing and once I've done what I need to do for me, then I can be as free as a bird for other people.
Yeah.
And my clients are really, honestly, my clients are really good, because they also know, I do a lot for them. And so I have 1 day off a week from work. So I'll say to the girls, all right, this Saturday's day off. You're not going to hear from me. I'll speak to you Sunday. Or I'll say, hey girls, I'm going to work this Sunday, but I'm going to work this Saturday, but I'm going to have Sunday off. So you won't hear from me till Monday. And I give them an opportunity to get everything they need to get in. Otherwise I'll say, don't worry about it. And I think, again, as coaches, they're not paying us to be their 24/7 support, but we will be their support. And I think it's really important to set boundaries with clients and also with partners and with friends, right? Because there's a saying in the neuro world, and it is, your body will set the boundaries. And what that means is your body will tell you if there's a boundary somewhere or not, whether it's through a heightened state, or it's it will move away from something. And so the body will always keep the score. And it is so important for all of us, especially when you're dealing with other emotions of people. You're in the people
industry.
people industry.
Yeah.
You're in an emotional industry. And so we have these things called motor neurons or mirror neurons. And so we mirror each other. And if you are highly dysregulated, guess what you're going to do to the next person? When a highly dysregulated person meets another, it's a recipe for disaster. You're not even serving the person in front of you.
Yeah.
So that piece in the morning is really important to me. And just having 1 day off from work is also really important for me, because I need to reset my system. Because not only do I talk to all my clients every day, I talk to hundreds of people every day, because I said I will message everyone that messages me. I will help everyone that messages me. But that's a really heavy load.
That's a lot.
So I had to make sure I'm once I go in there, I'm in there. So I have to be really careful for myself and conscious for myself on what those boundaries are. And like I said, I've broken my boundaries the last 2 weeks. So I've had an enormous amount of work on, and I don't feel better for it. I feel worse.
Worse for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So a bit of a lesson for myself.
I'm getting better at that. I very much, even when I was a teacher, I was very much a yes woman. Every little job, every sort of workload, extra thing. Jess, can you do this? Yep, absolutely. Jess, can you also do this? Yep, absolutely. At the drop of a hat, I was always picking up extra stuff, because I wanted to be that reliable person that people can always turn to. And I think that was part of the reason why I did leave teaching, because I felt so burnt out. I was so burnt out. I was mentally, emotionally, physically burnt out. And I think now, moving into the job that I have now in terms of my business, I'm learning my own ways of being able to create boundaries with clients. There are some times now where I'm just okay, I need to put my phone away. I need to just put it on D&D, because I've got my set check-ins that I need to do tonight, and then I'm actually going to go to bed. So, yeah. But it's hard, because I very much like, if it's an emergency with a client, or if it's something in particular that I know that they probably can't work out for themselves right now, I will answer it. But 9 times out of 10, if it's late, let's leave it till the next day.
Yeah. Look, most of the time it's never really urgent.
Yeah.
You know, but when you've got girls, like if I've got clients competing, like, yeah, I'm going to stretch my bandwidth for them, because they really do need, you know, some sort of support in that time. But most of my clients, like, you know, they're just wanting to improve their behaviors and relationship themselves, and they're, you know, it's never like a, what am I going to do?
I need this now.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty, but again, even for boundaries for ourselves, something that you named is like, I've got these check-ins and I've got to get done, and I've got to go to sleep. And so again, like boundaries, like I'm going to be honest with this one, like boundaries with social media, you know, it's like, hold on, that is way less important to the work that needs to be done here. And I also want to get to bed at this time because I want to wake up at 5:30, you know, and I've got an 8-hour, you know, so I need to set boundaries for myself. And then I need to have priorities for how I set those boundaries, because otherwise then we're going to bed at 10 o'clock and I'm losing this precious sleep time, which is important to me. And it's my own, you know, well-being.
Yeah. That's definitely something James rouses on me about all the time. I don't sleep enough. I still don't sleep enough.
Like he can speak.
No, he can't. He can't. He does not speak. He does not sleep. Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, that's him. Absolutely. Okay, well, I do have one more sort of question that I'd love to ask my guests on the show. And it's sort of, for me, like my childhood growing up, like I have so many beautiful, amazing memories. Like my twin sister and I are inseparable. And I don't know about you, but like looking back fondly of my childhood and who I was as a little girl, I sometimes think about like, how would she see me now? Like, what would she say about me right now? Like, how cool would she think I am? All the things that I've achieved. So for you, Hattie, if there was one lesson or one piece of advice that you could tell, you know, 7-year-old Hattie, what would it be?
Oh, gosh, I feel like there's so many different things I'd say to different parts of myself and different parts of my life. Everything happens for a reason. It's probably something I'd say. And the reason I'd say that is because what I was experiencing as a 7-year-old, it was painful and I couldn't work it out. And I think if I could say everything's going to be okay and everything happens for a reason, you know, it kind of maybe soothe her soul a little bit, because like I said, like that experience in that area of my life, it helped shape, you know, who I was as an adult, who was kind and caring and supportive of others, and really appreciates friendships and loves to help others and has high empathy and, you know, so much love to give, and, you know, knows what it's like to be bullied, that I would never do it to someone. I think that it keeps me in this very
grounded space.
Yeah. And, you know, who knows how I could have turned out if I was, you know, at gymnastics, I was praised all the time. If I was like that at primary school and I'd never had any conflict or never knew, you know, what it was like to be challenged, maybe I wouldn't have the same qualities as I have now as an adult. Maybe I could have been a real bitch, like at some point in my life. And I'm not saying like,
I don't think you have that in your nature. I think that's so not
maybe I would
possible
have,
for you. Yeah.
Maybe we don't know. And so I think to go back and be like, everything's going to be okay. And it all happens for a reason. The reason is later on, so you don't do that to someone else. I don't know. But, you know, on a bit of a side note, I was writing this in my journal the other week, and it was, you know, if I showed, you know, kind of like a movie montage to my, you know, 17-year-old self of the things I've accomplished, you know, as an adult, like, would I believe that that was me? And, you know, I don't know if I would. Like, part of me would be like, if I showed my 17-year-old self what I look like now, she'd probably be like, I don't want to look like that. But I think, you know, aside from that, she'd probably be pretty damn proud of the person that she, transformed into, because that time in my life, not good enough just, riddled me to the point where, I was just trying to eat away at myself. And so to see that I did and have accomplished things, 15 years on, I think would have been, or would be such a cool thing to show her. And, I have a saying, Jess, and it's blow your own damn mind. Blow your own damn mind. And I think that many people live this life being mediocre, and they're scared to break mediocrity. And I'm like, what are you so afraid of? You can't get any worse than what you are now.
I agree.
Like, actually, you don't even recognize, you're not even scratching what your potential is.
100%.
But the reason you haven't got your potential is because you're not willing to work hard for it, because potential doesn't just happen, it's created, right? We have talent.
It's up to you to create that too.
It is. An environment is one thing, but also, like, there are many people who have thrived out of really shitty environments, and it all comes down to mindset. And so there are so many people in this world that are just living such an average life, and they have so much more in them, but average is just so comfortable for them. And I just think I'd rather, like, I'd never want to live a mediocre life. And I think that's the thing that always motivates me to do more and do the things that scare me. Even if my self-belief of myself is this big, I'll still say yes, because I'd rather say yes and fail than say no and realize and go, oh, I just said no because I am too scared. It's like, but what if you did really well? Or what if you grew? Or what if you liked it? And then what if you didn't? That's also okay. You're not going to die. You're going to live to see another day. And so this thing around fear that we all have, this fear of failing, depending on what lens you see it through, it's like, are you failing or are you practicing? Are you failing or are you learning? Right? And how do we create it so, language is powerful? How do we make it empowering for us to continue forward on the things that are really hard?
Definitely. I can resonate that with more than you can understand. Like, I always knew that I wanted something more for my life. I always knew that I wanted to not just lead a mediocre life. And I think that's why for a short period of time I was in that comfort zone of being a teacher, of doing the next things in life that everyone expected of me to do. And I sort of came to a realization where I was like, I know I can do so much more with my life and with who I am and who I want to be. And again, this is going back to, like, now starting this podcast and wanting to have these conversations with people and creating this platform and believing in myself that I can create this space. Like, I never wanted to just be, like you said, like that mediocre, live that mediocre life. Like, I want to have an incredible life. And I have no shame in saying that. And I think there's a lot of power in that as well. And me not being afraid to say that out loud. Because I want to wake up every single day loving what I do. And I think that there's a lot of people out there who feel the same way. But like you said, like, fear holds us back. And the fear of, what do you think the main thing is, though? The fear of what, being failing, or the fear of being judged, or the fear of not?
People fear failing. People fear failure because of what other people are going to think of them more than what they think of themselves. How many people fail in private over and over and over again in little ways, right? In little micro tears. But when we do something publicly and fail, we become so scared of what someone else is going to think of us more than what we think of ourselves. And I just think for our society, we've just painted failing as a really negative thing, without realizing that, like, when we're failing at something, we're just in the learning process. It's like growing pains, right? It's just like, well, you can look at it as failure and not do it again, and then you've ultimately failed because you're not doing it again. You're not trying. Or you look at it and go, well, how do I fail forward? And I love that saying.
I love that. I love that when you use that. Yeah.
Okay. Right. And so the goal for all of us is just to be a little bit better than what we were a couple of days ago. Like, that's the goal, right? And year by year, we grow that little bit much. And then over 5 years, you look back and you're like, holy shit, I've actually done so much. But year to year, you might not think it's that much at all. But we need an accumulation of time, right? Time is the thing that allows us to look back and go, holy shit, I've
done
changed
so much. Yeah.
I've done so much. I've transformed, right? But that's with consistency. And I love that consistency also, in my eyes, is adaptability, because consistency is not perfection. It's, can you keep doing the thing no matter what the circumstance of environment is, knowing that some days it's going to feel like this and some days it's going to be like this. And if we can just keep going like this moving forward, right, then we're just racking up. Actually, we're going to get even better at the skill that we're acquiring, because we're not trying to practice in a perfect environment. We're kind of practice in all environments, and that's going to give us way more flexibility, right?
To
way
these
more
different environments in life.
Yeah. You know, we're not going to live in the kitchen. I think that's a really important thing for all of us to know as we come at, improving our skill set around nutrition, or improving our skill set around training, or even just any other habits that we have around ourselves, right? It does require consistency and repetition, knowing that it's not going to be perfect. And if we can show up just being the best that we can, then we're ultimately living the best version of ourselves in that moment for that day, knowing that we're going to get better.
Absolutely. I love that so much. I think there's a lot of things that I have taken from that, and that in terms of, like I said, being scared to fail, and being scared of what are people going to think, especially when life throws you really, really big, scary curveballs, and you think, how the fuck am I going to get through this? And I think we both have had very big years like this year in terms of curveballs being thrown our way. But no one ever grows being comfortable.
There's that. And the other piece is, everyone's going to fucking judge you anyway, so you might as well do what you want to do. Like, that's the thing I've come to learn. I'm like,
I love that.
Everyone's going to judge you no matter what.
No matter what you do.
Because if you're doing something that someone else wants to do, they're going to criticize you so you don't do it. So you just, you give them the reason that what they've done is the right thing. Right? Like, people only criticize others when they're doing something that they want to be doing, or when it mirrors something in them and makes them feel uncomfortable. That's where judgment comes from. That's where criticism comes from. And so we can't live our life for others. That's the biggest thing I've learned this year. Is like, I can't live my life for others. And when like, I've got a big platform, you bet I have judgment. I've got a lot of support, but there's always going to be judgment. I think to myself, if I'm trying to be myself, then I can only show up as myself, and people are going to judge that
no matter
anyway.
What. Yeah.
No matter what. And that's on them. While judgment often comes at us, it just says more about the other person making the judgment than it does the things said about us. In the same way that when people talk about others, they might be talking about someone, but it says more about that person talking about that person.
Absolutely.
Like, and then you go, so
it's almost like a mirror. Like it shows a mirror to that person where they're looking back at themselves and they're like, hang on, maybe this is really a reflection of what I think about myself, because I would rather sort of tear someone down in terms of, casting my judgment on what they're choosing to do with their lives, like you said, because they're probably afraid to really go out and do what they want to do.
We've just been talking about failure, right? You know how many people don't do things because they're scared of failure?
Yep.
And then they watch other people do the thing that they want to do, and rather than cheer them on, they get upset that someone's doing the hard thing, and then everyone on the internet has a voice. That's why the internet, everyone's been there, right? And we have both pros and cons to that, So I think the biggest thing for anyone listening is like, lean into, or maybe even like do your best to change what failure feels like to you or is to you. And it's like, am I failing or am I learning? A word I love for that is practice. I'm just in practice. I'm just practicing. I'm just learning. I'm doing the best I can. I often say to myself, I'm just doing the best I can. Come on, let's go. Like, just do the best you can. And it's just like this. If I'm doing the best that I can, then I'm honoring myself, because I'm doing the best that I can with the skill set that I have, with the knowledge that I have, with the experience that I have. And tomorrow when I go and do this thing again, I'm going to try and do it better with the experience that I got, with the lessons that I learned, with the mistakes that I made, and I'm going to go and apply it to something else. So have I failed yesterday? No, I'm just learning.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really encouraging way for people to continue to practice. because
Absolutely.
it's not about being perfected. This is something Bass told me. We reach for perfection knowing we're never going to make it. And the reason I actually love that is because whenever we're doing something hard, we're trying to, you're going to put in effort. Do your best to
reach that.
know that it's, if you fall short, just a little short of perfection, well, you're pretty fucking close. Is that, and you can't say, well, that's not good enough, because then you got to check your standards. Right? And a high standard without self-compassion just becomes self-bullying. And I love a high standard, but you have to make sure you can live it. Because if you have an unrelenting high standard and you're never making it, then you're just bullying yourself. And that's not a high standard. You're just being yourself with a stick, right? And so you either, create a realistic standard of yourself and then you build from that.
Yeah.
Right? Or don't have one at all. But I don't think it's healthy not to have a standard, because that's integrity and values. And it's nice to wake up to a day reaching for something every day, working towards something every day, no matter what that is in some sort of form. Because there are 3 things that make humans feel a sense of joy and happiness. And one of them is learning something new. The other is tracking your progression, like physically tracking it, not just like mentally tracking it. And the last one is being a part of a tribe. Right? But the first 2, there's something that we can reach for every day. Right?
For ourselves and by ourselves.
For ourselves, by ourselves, publicly, privately. And that will bring us a sense of joy. We don't have to tell the world about it, but knowing that we're doing it is also going to bring a sense of joy.
Absolutely. Definitely. And going back to sort of just really quickly, like what you were saying before about, people being afraid to make mistakes and people being afraid to fail. And, I think one of the biggest things as a person and as a person who's experiencing life for the first time, because all of us are, this is our first time doing this.
The first and only time.
That's exactly right. And, I think a big part of growing and learning as a person is acknowledging your mistakes, acknowledging, your failures in terms of, I did this wrong, but like I'm now in the process of putting practices in place of wanting to improve and learn from that. And the only way we can do that is to give ourselves the grace to do that. But yeah, I don't know. I think I sort of went on a tangent in my brain of what you were saying before. And I was like, I think I want to say that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Hattie, I honestly can't thank you enough again for coming on the show today. And like I said in the beginning of this, I have looked up to you from day one. And for me, this has been the biggest full circle moment, and the ability to sort of be a person in my own space to create this platform is something that I wanted to do. And I can't thank you enough for being part of this and for allowing me to reach out to you and to have this conversation. And I really do hope that there are listeners out there who have taken some inspiration from what we've spoken about today and, have enjoyed listening to us talk about life, because I love all of your podcasts that you are a guest on, and I listen to all of the episodes, and I'm just like, oh, what else can I sort of learn today? And like we said, we love learning, we love experiencing, we love sharing stories, and I'm so grateful, and I am forever grateful for being in this space, and forever grateful of the people that I have met throughout my life, and you are definitely one of those people.
Thank you. Thanks, Jess. Honestly, like I said, such an honor. So grateful to be here, and a really great conversation. So thank you as well.
So if you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and tune in for our next episode in the next fortnight. And yeah, that's all. Thank you, Hattie.
Thank you.